Next on the panel, we have George Cloutier, founder and CEO of American Management Services Incorporated, which helps small and mid-sized companies work through financial turnover as well as aiding with profit development. Using just $42,000 of seed capital, he built his company into an organization with more than 150 employees and tens of millions of annual revenue. He also co-founded and serves as chairman of Partner America, a unique public-private partnership between American Management Services and the U.S. Conference of Mayors, focused on developing small and mid-sized business growth in the country's metropolitan area. George, you're a dear friend, and you have been so good in the work that we do, and you always add value. And in planning this meeting, George, you were there from the beginning and giving good insight and counsel on how this experience ought to be. So thank you, George. But now, George, I'd like to find out from your perspective, because you talk to a lot of small businesses in our metropolitan area, and you hear the stories from them as they're wanting to either expand. And what are some of the challenges?
I think that one of the clear issues is obviously jobs, and there's obviously a major money issue. The federal government right now is not able to do any more. Most cities don't have a lot of excess funds to invest in small businesses. And the banks, the latest reports are the loans were down from the local banks. I think there are things that can be done about that. Last fall, they put together a program out of Congress, which passed after some wrangling, to put out $30 billion to small businesses across the country. And only $11 billion was picked up by the community banks of that program. They essentially put $29 billion back into the system, so that there's still a very conservative mood in the banking community. And as we've talked about this, we had a chance to talk about it in the fall, is they said, what would I do if I were a mayor? What could I do that doesn't cost a lot of money, that doesn't use a lot of resources? The first thing is, mayors have small business days, but they have them once a year. I'm not being critical of a once-a-year small business day, but they should have them, I think, on a regular building basis, so you build up the concept of a small business day. Have a business loan day. Have a business franchise day. Have it in a casual, informal atmosphere at the mayor's office or at a convenient location. There's too much focus on trying to get 300 people usually in the room. Let's get 20 or 30 who are looking for loans. Another thing is, take advantage of the local banking community. They are conservative, but remember, they're judged also on how many bad loans they make. So they're petrified and always looking for good loans. Why not have a service out of the mayor's office, or once a month get together with 4 or 5 different bankers each month, and put together with small business people who want to get loans or financial capital. But do it every month. I think, and I'm not being critical, believe me, I have a hard time being the mayor of my own house. So I know what you're going through. And there's resources, but there's a lot of volunteers from accounting firms, from banking firms, from insurance firms, from other big companies that would help put these programs together. But do it every Wednesday and make that small business day, and focus on job fairs, whether you know it or not. I mean, people may not be aware of them, are beginning to come back. The economy is not great. The hiring is obviously a problem, but they're beginning to come back after 2 years in the desert. Have a program on hiring, because businesses are still trying to look for the right people. So you have to put the businesses together with the people. You have to put the businesses together with the financial sources. And I don't think we're doing enough of that on a local basis, and it's the one thing a regular small business effective program out of the mayor's office is one thing that you could do with volunteers and not have to have a huge budget dent. I think beyond that, it's going to take a long time, and I think a mayor, I've always, in the 11 years I've been at the mayor's conference, I'm always stunned at how hard they work, and I don't mean to give you any more work. Okay? It's probably the lowest per hour job in the nation. So I hate to put more on you, but if you could lever your resources through the banks, through volunteers, to get regular small business programs going to help your own economic development organizations, which of course costs money, and right now money is the scarcest commodity.
Thank you, George. That's a great idea for us mayors to take back. And I don't think when you give us ideas about what we can do to help our small business community and to grow jobs, that that's going to be a difficult thing. George, can you comment on that from your experience working with other small businesses in our metropolitan area, please?
We work with probably 100 small businesses every month, from car dealers to restaurants to covering the wide spectrum. And I think the biggest issues in health care are not yet clear, because the state exchanges, which are going to control the kind of programs that are available for health care or mandated in 2014, have not been created yet. And I think, as you pointed out, they haven't defined what the cost should be, what the coverages should be, and I think a lot more has to be done on that. But that said, right now, as an owner, we employ 150 people. We're going to either have to pay a $2,000 per year penalty or cover everybody with insurance. Now, the problem is, I don't know what that insurance is going to cost. And, you know, I'm not the world's brightest guy, but I'm not a total slouch, and I have no clue what it's going to cost. And I think, again, what can a mayor do to help? And I think trying to get more clarification to business owners, because you read comments every month or every day about this program is good for health, and you want to get and a mayor's office or someone affiliated with the mayor's office can do an unbiased view. Obviously, you can't, given your elected office, you can't favor anyone, but you can put some of the options out. And I think education, before we have a knee-jerk reaction to this is a bad health care or it's a good health care. I'm petrified that we don't know, and by the time we find out, there could be some consequences that could have been avoided.
Mm-hmm. If we can look at this side by side that you've been talking about, and George, your input is always very good, but I think we have to move on this thing because it's really impeding the health and the economy of our country as we...
Mayor Kautz, whether they do the health care or not, it's not going to sink small businesses. I'm not a big fan of that bill, but it's probably coming. So better to try to modify it, better to try to give it good suggestions, and it may turn out that I totally change my opinion. I think you can't leave people uninsured. It's just not good.
Yes. No,
you know, I mean that. And I'm the original capitalist, you know, but I think that I hate to use such an overworked phrase, but the devil is in the details. And I don't know what health care is going to look like in my company in 2014. I have no clue. I'm not sure that's making me not hire people, but it's making me say, well, geez, if I'm spending $900 a month, and this I hear all the time from most of the owners that we all have employees, they say it all the time, is, well, I don't want to get committed to a health care plan and get it locked down by the bill. So in other words, if you're paying in 2013 $1,000 a month for family care, it might be that you have to keep paying that, because what's the standard going to be of payment? And I think the devil is in the details, and there's much political rhetoric on both sides. Oh, this is great, this is terrible, this is great, this is terrible. But you know something? And Tom may never invite me back, you guys may never invite me back, but nobody knows. They really don't have a clue. And I think some pressure on them to get some real numbers in front of the world here would be very helpful in forming a program.
Okay. George, from your perspective.
I think one of the things is the young people in the Middle East and other countries in that area may want to go into business, but they don't know how. So the first step is, how do I get into business? Obviously, a franchise opportunity, which may be or may not be good for the country to fit into, is great. But also, I think if you could focus your resources on some kind of seminars and education programs for people who want to get into business, because it's a very daunting thing. Well, do I just open outside my front door, and what do I do? What do I buy? How much cost do I have? How do I go recruit people? How do I go recruit customers? Even if I have a restaurant, that may not be something. How do I get more customers into my restaurant? How do I use the internet for my restaurant? So I think between franchising and other sources in this country, and I'm sure internationally, there are many ways you could bring a lot more education. And I don't mean education where you take 6 months and you get a grade at the end and you say, okay, good. I say something you get a month's worth of training, then you go out and do it. So a practical education could be an area that might be helpful to you.
I'm Steve Caldera. I'm the CEO of the International Franchise Association. We're very grateful, Mayor, as you know, for the partnership and Tom's leadership in working together with our respective organizations. One of the points I just want to sort of piggyback on what Jack and Catherine said is that over the past decade, franchising has grown 40% in terms of economic output. And the rate of jobs, we've created jobs faster by 14%, non-franchise businesses, due to the proven structured scalable model. I think Catherine talked a little bit about the operations support, the marketing support, the training support, leveraging the supply chain efficiencies, if you will. So it really has grown because of the basic model, the proven model. And especially as we've worked through this tough economy this past few years, more people are getting and looking into franchising as a way to control their own destiny. And as Catherine said, you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So I just want to throw those figures out there. There's a reason why franchising is growing and is 10% of GDP.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's good information to have. Anybody else?
Can I?
Yes, please. George.
There's always going to be a dynamic tension between franchises and non-franchise businesses in the same business. Okay, that's part of America.
Yeah.
And it's like when Walmart comes into a town, everybody, or independent chain stores, drugstores, there is room for both. I think that there are advantages to franchises, the buying, maybe the training, but the independent person who's been in the restaurant business, using the restaurants as an easy one, for 10 years or 20 years, knows the local community, the new groupers, upstarts. And what I'm saying is that we can't become a nation of franchisees on one hand. On the other hand, we can't exclude a viable and efficient economic opportunity, which is franchises. So I think it's one of those questions that there's no easy answer. I think it's a great question. How do I resolve this? And the best thing to do as a mayor is as much information you can give to the non-franchisors about buying, technical issues, control over their business, management of their business. The techniques that franchises use are not mystical. They're just disciplined and regular. They are not mystical, they're disciplined and regular. And if you can instill that in some of those businesses, the tension will always be there, but I think they can coexist very viably.
Great. George, what makes you most optimistic about the state of our American
I'm
economy?
kind of in line with Mayor Fox. I see mostly small businesses. I come to conferences like this, which see the excitement of the mayors, which are leading their towns. But the small business people, especially over the last 3 years, I have seen hundreds, thousands of small businesses that should have been left for dead, and they've managed to survive it. They somehow have survived it. And I think we should be helping. I'm not sure we have all the right formulas, but I think we should be helping them as much as we can because they're just as big a heroes as anybody else. And those are my heroes. They're up there upside down for $500,000. You know, their credit's been ruined, and they're still going to work every day. And the survival of the fittest, and they are beginning to do better. It's not an easy time, but I think whether they're a franchisee or whether they're a normal small business person, I don't know if that's a good contrast, but a small business person, it just makes you proud to know them.